Tonight at 10, state police are investigating the death of a Faulkner County man that was killed during a shootout in that area. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Sarah Horbacewicz. Now, a high-speed police chase has led to a death investigation. We have new details tonight on that chase, as well as another weekend shooting in central Arkansas. Overnight in Mayflower, police attempted to pull over 53-year-old Michael Scotty Helton. When he didn't stop, authorities followed him through Conway. That's when spike strips stopped the car. Officers say Helton fired at them first during the chase and after, but when officers shot back, Helton was killed. Just hours later in Conway, police reported a separate shooting on Keithley Drive. 3 people were sent to the hospital with gunshot wounds, and officers are still looking for a suspect. CPD does not believe this is an isolated incident, and they do not see any threat to the public right now. If you have any information on what happened, you're asked to call police.
Well, weather-wise, we saw a pretty nice end to the weekend. Plenty of sunshine to enjoy for today. Here's what we saw temperature-wise across the region. It was a little bit on the cooler end compared to yesterday. Highs approached the mid to upper 50s across central Arkansas. A bit cooler to our north, but into the low 60s to our south. We are still nice and crisp and quiet right now. Clear skies, temperatures sitting in the low 40s, continuing to drop to around the low to mid 30s overnight under mostly clear skies. Heading out the door tomorrow, just bundle up a little bit. It'll be a bit chilly in the morning with plenty of sunshine. Cloud cover will vary throughout the afternoon, partly cloudy to partly sunny with those temperatures around the mid to upper 50s, very similar to what we saw for today. But we have some much warmer temperatures in our forecast heading into the new week, possibly even seeing temperatures in the 70s along with some rain and storm chances as well. So more on that in the forecast coming up in minutes.
Last week, a tornado swept through Jessieville, Arkansas, damaging schools and several homes. Just hours after the storm, the community was already working to rebuild. And in the days since, THV11's Brooke Buckner shows us how the community's faith in one another has only grown stronger as they all work to move forward.
So would you please bow your heads?
Prayers of gratitude Sunday afternoon as dozens of students, staff, and parents continue to recover after the tornado.
It was sheer terror when I got the phone call that a tornado hit the school and we didn't know what was going on.
Karen Stogsdill rushed to find her grandson at the school immediately after the storm and says she's thankful it wasn't any worse.
It was just a relief that not only he was okay, but all the teachers and faculty and the people whose homes were affected.
Her grandson's teacher, Tiffany Wainscott, says keeping her students safe was her #1 priority during the tornado, and she did just that.
I gathered all the students and went to the other door and kind of sheltered in place and waited until we thought it was safe to travel to the safe room.
Now she says she's thankful to move forward and see her students again Monday.
My personal children are excited to go back to school and get to see their friends.
Superintendent Melissa Spears says times like these make the Jessieville community feel like home.
There's nothing like it. The people here, the support. You've seen the people that have turned out to pray and who pray for us every day.
And just like Wainscott, she's ready to have the kids back in the classroom.
I don't like the summers because the staff and the kids aren't here. Schools are supposed to have kids in the hallways and are supposed to have kids here. So I'm excited.
In Jessieville, Brooke Buckner, THV 11 News.
School will be back open tomorrow, and Spears says she plans to meet with first responders to discuss future improvements in case anything like this ever happens again. Now, for the first time since his on-field collapse gripped the nation, we got our first look at Buffalo Bills safety Demar Hamlin as he recovers. The 24-year-old shared this game-time photo of himself in the hospital bed with his parents by his side. Moments before the Bills kickoff in Buffalo, and fans were all happy and revealed to see this picture.
Just to see, the whole NFL and the whole country, sit there and surround him and give prayer was absolutely unbelievable.
Hamlin continued tweeting throughout the game today, cheering his teammates on and thanking fans. He is the beating heart of the Bills team that now looks ahead to the playoffs. Meanwhile, Hamlin's incident is starting dialogue among Arkansans, moving everyone to make sure they're prepared when the unthinkable happens. In one nurse's words, seconds matter, and you shouldn't wait to get CPR training. THV 11's Frederick Price shows us the importance of knowing what to do.
Monday night, millions watched as a medical team performed CPR on Buffalo Bills player Demar Hamlin.
For every minute that cardiac arrest victim's down without defibrillation, decreases chances of survival by 7 to 10%.
Diana Bolton owns American First Response.
I'm going to send them to go call 911 and get
She's been teaching CPR for more than 30 years.
3, 4, 5.
Since the incident, more people, she says, want to learn.
We have gotten some calls of interest to taking CPR and the AEDs.
And seconds truly matter. Hamlin went into cardiac arrest and was revived twice. Those scary moments bringing an increased awareness to be prepared when the unthinkable happens.
Because you don't know if somebody's going to go down, and it could be a stranger, it could be a loved one.
Bolton says 70% of all cardiac arrests outside the hospital happen inside homes. That startling reality is why she trains and certifies people year-round to make sure they are equipped to save a life quickly.
I know everybody's not comfortable doing ventilations on someone, but just doing those chest compressions keeps that circulation going.
Aside from CPR training, she says it's equally important people know how to use an automated external defibrillator or an AED.
That is the same technology that you're deploying. We have in the hospital that we can shock that person if they're in a lethal rhythm.
To simply put it, you never know when training can come in handy. So Bolton stresses not to wait.
The gratitude coming back to us is when people come back to us and say, we saved our baby that was choking, or we saved a loved one with our CPR skills.
In North Little Rock, Frederick Price, THV 11 News.
Now to a THV 11 update. Southwest Airlines is now feeling the cost for its flight operations disaster we saw back in December. The airline is filing special paperwork with the SEC because its predicted losses for the final quarter of 2022 will be between $725 and $825 million. Around half of that comes from not flying, while the rest is from reimbursements for passengers and overtime pay for employees. Southwest canceled nearly 17,000 flights because of the recent winter storm. Their cancellations stretching for several days, long after the other airlines got back on schedule. And in more national headlines, President Biden makes his first visit to the border today since he took office. This just days after the president announced a crackdown on unauthorized border crossings and expanded restrictions on asylum. Christian Benavides reports.
Amid intense scrutiny over his immigration policies, President Biden visited the border for the first time as commander-in-chief. In El Paso, he met with local officials as well as Border Patrol agents at the city's busiest port of entry. El Paso has been struggling to cope with an influx of migrants.
It's a real drastic situation. It's a real crisis. I don't know what's going to happen.
Pastor Rafael Garcia, one of the many faith leaders on the ground, seeing the impact firsthand.
They're not going to disappear. So you need to have some sort of a solution for them that's humane.
We have a patchwork system.
On Thursday, the president announced sweeping restrictions on asylum. The new policy says migrants crossing from Nicaragua, Cuba, and Haiti will be immediately expelled to Mexico, a policy that already applies to Venezuelans. Instead, the U.S. will accept 30,000 people a month from those four countries if they apply through a legal process and have a financial sponsor in the U.S.
I would have loved to have seen the administration lean in on immigration from day one.
Why didn't
because, you know, you'd have to ask them that. The executive branch is not the only branch of government that needs to do its job, though.
Democratic Representative Veronica Escobar, who's at the border with Biden, says Congress needs to act. Texas Republican governor met Biden upon his arrival, where he handed him a letter expressing his views on border laws before offering sharp criticism on the administration's immigration policy.
The president, who caused the chaos of the border, needed to be here. It just so happens he's 2 years and about $20 billion too late.
New polling shows only 38% of Americans approve of Mr. Biden's handling of immigration, while 62% disapprove. Christian Benavides, CBS News.
Following his visit to El Paso, the president will head to Mexico City for the North American Leaders Summit to discuss immigration, drug trafficking, and economic partnerships. Happening tomorrow, the Gravit man charged in the breach of the U.S. Capitol will face trial. Richard Barnett is accused of entering the U.S. Capitol on January 6th and was even photographed at a desk of then Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi's office. Monday marks the beginning of that jury selection process, and we'll keep you updated as the trial gets underway in federal court. First thing in the morning, Arkansas lawmakers will meet at the state capitol. They'll start reviewing proposed bills in this year's legislative session. Some of the proposed bills include parole reform, tax cuts for Arkansans, tighter sex offender registration requirements, and more. THV 11's Journey Taylor will break everything down for you in the morning, bright and early on Wake Up Central. And we are now one day closer to Sarah Huckabee Sanders becoming the first woman to be sworn in as governor of Arkansas. The inauguration is set for Tuesday morning with an inaugural ball later that night. THV 11 is your home for full coverage of this historic event next Tuesday and starting at noon. Now, you may have seen Prince Harry on 60 Minutes earlier talking about his new memoir, Spare. But if you missed it, in just 5 minutes, we'll tell you how people are reacting to the Prince's controversial new book. But first, a quick check-in with Corrales Ortiz.
Well, we have some quiet weather to talk about these next few days until we see our next chance for some showers and even some storms later this week. That along with a winter warm-up as well. More in your forecast is coming up.